The book of Job is one of the most poignant in the Old Testament writings. It is quite daring, and it is in a way surprising that it found its way into the canon of Holy Scripture. The way that the Lord himself makes use of the genius of man to convey his message is interesting, for it is high poetry. It comes through even in translation because it is based on the Semitic form of parallelism and also the use of concrete terms and words. And we have image after image. We have also a crescendo. The eventual outworking of the drama comes in the last dialogue, where God the Father comes into the scene and answers Job with a question. But already in this passage of Job himself, we see a man pondering at the mighty action of God himself, and therefore his imponderability. The stars are still there, and we see them. The constellations mentioned are still there and have been gazed on by generation after generation. We use indeed ancient names: the Bear, Orion, the Pleiades, the mansions of the south. When we speak of the plough, we can easily detect it in the northern hemisphere, and it's there named by people who had ploughs, not tractors, but people who tilled the land simply in the peace of the stars and of the night and of the unchanging time and weather of the seasons. These were people who were against nature without protection, and the stars are still there, twinkling. Astronomers now can see galaxies that were not even imagined or dreamt of some years ago, and they will tell you that the further they go into these distant galaxies with very potent means of observation, the further back they are going in time. When we look at a distant galaxy, we are looking at an astronomical number of light years away. So we're looking at history. And when the first beams of energy came forth from those very, very distant galaxies on the other side of the universe, as it were, what was the world as we know it? Was it yet still in embryonic ball? It's something at which the mind boggles. We certainly were not there. And in that context, Job has it right. And this powerful drama, this powerful poetic writing, precisely because it's readable and dramatic and pictorial, says it all, as far as it could be said at that point in human development, for the revelation was progressive. Where I live, just in front of New Grange, it does hit one. The vestiges of the cult of light are there, precisely because it was the brightest and most powerful that they knew, and they feared the dark, ever present, especially in this western part of the world, and life was short, on average 30 or 40 years. But these were very far back in time for us, about 500 years actually before the pyramids, and they were producing a work of perfection which has held water perfectly since then. It is perfectly constructed. And this way in which they calculate and master the ray of the sun is not without interest. It would seem also that in the trigonometry of the Egyptians they knew quite a lot. Indeed, we know from examining closely what they have left us in pictorial form, representation of life of the time, that they had got as far as harnessing electric current. We can see quite clearly, repeatedly, they are using electric bulbs in these pictures. And so, evolution of society and mastery of creation can progress and regress. It happened in the Minoan culture in Crete, and so on. Different centres of civilization, points of light on a dark planet, here and there, each one after the other. And we, in Ireland, were important in the period in which we kept civilization, notably culture, and Christian culture especially, awake and bright in the Dark Ages, when a continent over the water, in Europe, was actually losing things, and we kept quite a lot. And the perfection of the creation of works like the Book of Kells testifies to the way in which God was honoured, as indeed does the corpus of liturgical tradition that has come down to us in the Latin patrology. We can see how they prayed and how much they prayed. It was in Latin, but there was a great volume of psalms on a daily basis. The night office was extremely long. So this was this part of the world at its height. We pass on the torch of civilization, and we pass on and go into apparent oblivion. Yes, individuals are forgotten after a while, but they only start on their journey. The soul, once ignited, will burn on, either for good or for bad, either in glory or in its absence, but it will not stop being. Once ignited, we cannot stop being. And this is the bit that right now Satan would have the whole civilized world forget. Forget anything beyond. Whereas actually there was more wisdom, in a sense, in the time of the Egyptians and of New Grange, from the point of view of having some desire of insurance against the dark. Now, many people, many young people, accelerate death, a quick suicide. And indeed, the absence of care given to life from, for instance, abuse of substances which actually are going to shorten life eventually, shows that the immediate is the only thing that counts. The next joy, the next distraction, whether it's a substance or a dependency or anything at all which distracts and somehow anesthetizes against the reality, it's the same game of the demon. Cancel the beyond from the equation. And then, now, different from those who were looking at the constellations before and giving them names, it's very easy to do. Compare the night of somebody watching the stars as a shepherd, only really relatively a small time distant from us compared with the universe, with what happens now in a great part of the world. People are all the time not watching reality, not actually thinking their own thoughts, but drugged and anesthetized, dumbed and made absent by continuous input of things on the airwaves. The planet has become a planet of screen gazers. Virtual reality is reality. Look around. Look around at even young people, even children. The screen is the center of the soul. We ask, who done it? Well, there's an old saying in Latin, is fecit cui prodest. He did it to whom it serves. It's the way that the detectives work. Well, old Nick wants us anesthetized against the truth. And he's far more clever than we are. He's been on track a long time before us, and he never lost one iota of his angelic wit. He's having a great field day, saying how thick they are. One day it is told that there was a desert father in the marketplace going to sell the wicker baskets that the brethren had made. And he noticed a demon calmly sitting on his elbows, looking at them all. And he wondered why he was so idle, and he was given to understand, look at them. I have only to whisper, and they do exactly what I want. And then he came back into the desert, and he passed the cell of a young monk, and noticed at least 40 black demons of colossal size and weight, tearing at his imagination and trying to get him to have evil thoughts. And he was puzzled, and he was given to understand that he was shown that actually it's only the ones who really take the Lord seriously who become a real nuisance to the other side.